Hey there. Thanks for stopping by and having a look at what I have to share here. I started a new YouTube channel. It's titled The Sherpa Way or Sherpa Way. And I want to do an introduction and give you a sense of who I am and why I'm doing this and why it might be meaningful and even helpful for you. So this is about a journey that I'm going on. I'm extremely excited about it. But I got to thinking about it and some of my motivations for doing it. And I realized that it was probably pretty important to give you folks a sense of why I felt this was important and potentially of value to a lot of folks my age or even younger. A little bit about me first so you get a sense of where I'm going with this. I am 68 years old. I am a marriage and family therapist in Texas. I am a former engineer. I am a former entrepreneur and business owner. I built a big business in California and I sold it. And I have been a coach as well as a therapist, and I'm a father. I've got two beautiful children. They are now adults. And you know, as a therapist, I've noticed there are some things that a lot of folks my age or even older tend to run into. And we'll get into that, but I'm going on this journey and I think it might be interesting for you to sort of tag along. What do we do when life starts to change? When we get to our 50s and even our 60s and we begin to question what our purpose is during the sort of pre-retirement years and even after you're in retirement. How do we identify with that new you? I've worked with clients as a therapist who are in their 60s and moving into their 70s who have struggled profoundly with figuring out who they are, what their purpose is, what their life is going to look like in retirement. And there are some real strong parallels from person to person in terms of what we run into and the challenges inherent in getting older. People struggle with loneliness. They struggle with loss of purpose, loss of identity in particular. Men in general will identify quite heavily with the thing that they do as an adult in their career. And then when that's no longer their core identity construct, they really struggle with what do I do with who I am and how do I see myself in the world. So I took a long trip last year. I went to Thailand for just about 2 months. And you know, I learned a lot about Thailand, but a lot about the changes and challenges that people go through, especially expatriates who relocate to Thailand and retire there. And it made me wonder, what can I do to help some of these guys that are struggling? Because there are a lot of expats in Thailand who struggle with these questions. And sometimes their struggles lead to dark places. So I wanted to find a way to help them. And the first thing I thought of is, well, I'm going to build a channel around helping them. But the question I had was, how do I reach them? How do I get to them? And how do I get to other people who are considering a life change? How do I get to other people who are thinking about retirement and not exactly sure what they're going to do or where they're going to go or what it's going to look like? So while this journey that we're going on is largely about my decision to relocate to Thailand, you could be considering relocating anywhere. And even if you're not considering relocating, these things are critically important to a healthy, fourth chapter in your life. Isolation, lack of purpose, unrealistic expectations can be a real problem. And this is why it's important to get out ahead of it. I teach my clients this all the time. I'm still an active therapist. I work a lot with families and children, but also with senior citizens. And, lack of being, really realistic about what to expect and being prepared so that there's no surprises or few surprises or manageable surprises. So, as a father, I think a lot about my children's future. As a therapist, I think a lot about my clients' future. And I try to help them with gaining a sense of purpose, but most importantly, creating structure behind what that life looks like. Now, when anybody decides to leave the country and go live in another country as an expatriate, there's an automatic loss of substantial elements of structure in their lives, particularly if they go to a place where they don't speak the language. So this is going to be a journey about a lot of the things I've talked about, but it's also going to be a journey about going to Thailand, and you could replace Thailand with any number of places: Bolivia, Colombia, Eastern Europe, you name it. There are a number of countries that are rather attractive financially because of the cost of living arbitrage that you can do by relocating to another country. But that lack of structure is consistent across all of them. And in many cases, the lack of a common language or the ability to speak the language is a huge problem too. So Thailand was at one point just an option I'm exploring. I am, and you may be exploring Thailand too. And so some of this video will be, this video series, this vlog, will be about helping you understand what to expect in Thailand, because we're going to go through the whole process with me. I'm going to take you through the journey of everything. I got a house full of furniture, I've got a house full of belongings, I've got a house full of musical instruments. Got to get rid of this piano. And I've got to get rid of a lot of musical instruments. I've got a lot of artwork that's very, important to me. I'm going to have to find a way to let go of my emotional attachment to a lot of these things. And that question of emotional attachment is a really big one, I'm finding, as I'm putting the pieces in place to make this move. I'm not planning on moving for probably 6 to 9 months, but I'm doing this well ahead of the game so that I have time to properly address and emotionally adjust to the challenges that are going to be out there in front of me. So this channel is really about helping people define a meaningful next chapter in their life and do it in a healthy way where you don't go in blindsided. They talk about healthcare being a principal concern or not being financially prepared to move to another country. And those things are all very, very important. But I think what's even more important is purpose and structure. If you have a purpose for what you're doing in your future life, that next chapter, then a lot of the other pieces will fall into place. I don't recommend you take chances with regard to healthcare or finances, but I think they're at very least equally important to the question of purpose and structure, life structure, because that's important. So we'll talk about it in future videos. I didn't want to make this video too long. I think Thailand is just the mountain that I'm climbing right now, and that's where that plus other experiences are where the notion of calling the channel Sherpa Way. Years ago, when I first became a therapist, I wanted to build a series of counseling centers called Sherpa Counseling Center. And the thinking on it is that when you decide to climb a huge mountain and you've never been a mountain climber before, you do all the training and the necessary preparation, You may take classes or go to schools to learn what to do and how not to make mistakes. But one thing you definitely want to do if you've never climbed a big mountain before is get a Sherpa. Get a Sherpa to show you where the crevasses are. Get a Sherpa to help you figure out how to get up the mountain. Get a Sherpa who's been up there and he can help get you to the top and back down the mountain, which is almost as important. It's one thing to get up there, but if you want to continue the chapter, you got to get back down. So Sherpa Way is really about helping people at that stage of their life where they're looking at the next chapter. How do you make healthy decisions? How do you create, meaningful, sustainable structure in your life? How do you define your purpose in the world as a retired person? These things are all manageable, but they're not manageable unless you think about them in advance. They're not a problem you're going to solve when you're halfway up that mountain and you need to figure out how to get across a big crevasse. So I invite you to come along on the journey with me. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm scared. I don't know. Scared's probably not the right word. I'm very, very excited and anticipating the journey. Each step along the way has been more and more exciting. A little unnerving when you start thinking about some of these things, but it's certainly doable. I invite you to come along. Please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos when they come up, because I want you to stay with me on the journey. And if you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Put a comment in the comments section. And if so, I'll probably eventually be offering one-on-one consultation services as a coach if you're thinking about relocating to another country. So we can talk about that down the road. That's not the real reason for this video. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen. And I look forward to getting to know you and maybe meeting you one day in Thailand. Who knows? Have a good day.